As hard as it may be to believe, Wolverine was not always the most popular member of the X-Men.
In fact, even though sales on the book had steadily increased since the team was relaunched in the early 70s, the X-Men's most popular member was probably Beast, who actually wasn't even on the team at the time. He was on the Avengers. But even outside of that, I would still probably put Wolverine behind Cyclops, Colossus, and maybe even Nightcrawler at that time, where Wolverine was usually portrayed as an irascible scamp who only joined the X-Men because he was bored with his job at the Canadian government. That would begin to change during the classic storyline, the Dark Phoenix Saga, which featured Wolverine famously mowing through several underlings of the Hellfire Club and would later become to be known as a Berserker Rage. Over time, readers would slowly be introduced to more and more of Logan's past, most notably that he had spent time in Japan where he romanced a young woman named Yoshida Mariko. We'll get a little bit more on her later. Then, in issue number 162 of Uncanny X-Men, readers would be introduced to the mantra that would define Wolverine for years to come.
All together now.
I'm the best there is at what I do.
But what I do
isn't very nice.
As reader interest began to increase, writer Chris Claremont approached artist Frank Miller about doing a miniseries based on Wolverine as the two were doing a road trip from Los Angeles to the San Diego Comic Convention. Miller was not interested. He really didn't care for Wolverine that much. That is, until Claremont mentioned the character's history in Japan and that Logan was perpetually seeking the samurai ideal.
Because I don't know if you're aware of this, but Frank Miller really has an affinity for certain aspects of Japanese culture, so the idea of Wolverine being a failed samurai struck a chord with him and finally got him to say yes to the project. And today we're looking at that project. It's a 4-issue miniseries, and we'll touch briefly on the fallout that came from it. This is Wolverine.
Wolverine has been tasked by the Canadian government to track down and take care of a grizzly that has been killing innocents, including 2 Royal Canadian Mounted Police officers. As the bear lies dying from a claw swipe, Wolverine notices a barbed, poison-tipped arrow lodged in the beast's back. Some poacher used this illegal weapon to take the bear down, only for the bear instead to fly into a rage and the poacher to abandon any idea of killing the bear and putting it out of its misery. Logan tracks down the poacher via the scent the poison gives off and takes him down, though the hunter is actually allowed to live, unlike the bear. He then heads back to the X-Mansion in Westchester, where he finds letters he had sent to Mariko in Japan have all been returned. A phone call to the Japanese embassy turns up nothing, so Wolverine is now off to Tokyo. Upon landing, Logan tracks down a friend in the government named Kimura Asano. Asano has some hard news. Mariko's father, Yoshida Shingen, who was long thought deceased, has returned to reassume control of the clan. As a part of a long-held debt to a rival Yakuza gang, Shingen had Mariko married off to a man named Noboru Hideki. Because of the laws of Giri, Japanese etiquette, Mariko had no other choice but to join the marriage.
Though the Yoshida clan are technically Japanese aristocracy, the way they got that way was basically being a front for a Yakuza gang. Mariko has been trying to get them to clean up their act ever since her father's mysterious disappearance, and his sudden return from the dead has meant that she had to forfeit that position. Also, I would be remiss if I didn't mention that Mariko's half-brother Harada Yoshida is the Silver Samurai, a character we touched on in our review of New Avengers Volume 3, Secrets and Lies.
Despite Asano's pleas to stay out of a private matter, Wolverine suits up and heads to the Ishida home in Aragashima. After neutralizing the dogs via staring contest, Logan tracks down Mariko. She has been beaten in submission, though it's never stated whether Hideki or Shingen is responsible. Logan tries not to fly into a rage as he pleads with Mariko to leave with him, but her family tradition has left her with no other choice. This is interrupted by Hideki's arrival. Logan moves to kill the man, only for Mariko to bag him off. He reluctantly acquiesces and prepares to leave, only to suddenly be dropped by several poisoned shuriken. When he comes to, Wolverine finds himself in the chamber with Shingen. Shingen tosses a bokan, a wooden samurai training sword, to Logan, and orders the mutant to fight for his life. Though Wolverine's healing factor has prevented the poison from taking his life, he's still under its effect as Shingen is able to dominate most of the fight. Wolverine pops his claws out but doesn't go for a killing strike, which in turn allows Shingen to neutralize Logan with a blow to the spine. Shingen then renders Wolverine unconscious with a final blow. When Logan comes to, he's back in Tokyo. He's shaken both physically and mentally, feeling that he's lost his honor. It's then that a group of Yankee happens across Logan's body, but before they can attack him, they themselves are taken down by a mysterious woman who knows who Wolverine is and everything else about him.
This woman is named Yukio, and by occupation she's a thief and hired gun, though she considers herself more of a ronin, or masterless samurai. Yukio lives for the pure excitement that the thrill of being a thief and hired gun can bring, believing that death is the only way to truly achieve peace in life. Now, yes, this is actually the same Yukio who appeared in Deadpool 2 as Negasonic Teenage Warhead's girlfriend even though her character in the comics isn't actually a mutant. And she appeared in the second Wolverine solo film, The Wolverine, which borrows very heavily from this story.
Wolverine wakes up again to find both he and Yukio surrounded by members of the Hand. He fights his way through the group only to realize that was just the first wave. However, Logan is over the effects of the poison and proves more able to make mincemeat out of the assassins. The two return to Yukio's, where she explains the one who commissioned the assault from the Hand is a Yakuza boss who is plotting to overthrow the Emperor. She then tries to put the moves on Logan, but he still has feelings for Mariko. While Logan cleans up, Yukio slips out to pay a visit to Shingen. It turns out she's really in his employ, and he's the one who hired the Hand. He's upset that Yukio hasn't killed Logan, but is willing to put the mutant to use as a plan to take out a rival named Katsuyori. Shingen has set up a plan for a phony accord meeting involving Hideki and Mariko, with Yukio and Wolverine taking Katsuyori out in the process. Wolverine and Yukio sneak into Katsuyori's stronghold, with the unknowing Logan making sure not to attract attention by letting the security guards live. The two look on at the foursome of Hideki, Mariko, Katsuyori, and Katsuyori's wife taking in a kabuki play. It's then that Logan notices the swords in the play are real and that Katsuyori has his own plan to take out Mariko and Hideki. He leaps into the fray and begins mowing through the actors in front of everyone, including Mariko. Katsuyori and his wife flee to their car, which Yukio actually rigged with an explosive. When Wolverine is done, he realizes Mariko witnessed everything. She's disgusted, he's shamed, and Yukio is pleased. Logan and Yukio spend the next few days bar hopping and fighting all comers. It's here that Logan's agent friend from the government, Asano, finds them. Asano wants Logan to take down the plot against the Japanese government, not knowing of the Yoshida clan / Logan involvement. Logan turns Asano down and storms off with Yukio. The two start making out on a train track as Yukio is trying to spice things up. While dodging trains does lend to some excitement, Wolverine kills the move by calling Yukio Mariko. Yukio smashes her foot by delivering a roundhouse kick to Logan's adamantium jaw and storms off. She returns home to her apartment, now resolving to finally follow through on Shingen's wishes for Wolverine to be killed. She's interrupted by someone entering through her door. That someone isn't Wolverine, who returns a couple hours later to find the corpse of the actual intruder sitting in the middle of the room. It's Asano, and he has several of Yukio's throwing daggers sticking out of them. Logan removes one of the daggers and notices something familiar about it. It's been poisoned. In fact, it's the exact same poison from the shuriken that took him down at the Yoshida residence. Now fully aware of Yukio's connection to Shingen, Wolverine takes off after her. He hits her with a dagger he pulled from Asano's body, and it's enough for Yukio to crash through the skylight of an indoor peace garden. Logan pops his claws, but Yukio knows he can't kill her as they are too much alike. Before anything else can happen, the Hand intervene. Yukio disappears as Wolverine mows through the assassins once more. Afterwards, Logan meditates in the peace garden. No matter how hard he strives to achieve his balance, he keeps screwing it up. Is Yukio right? Should he just accept that the animal is inside him and move on?
Then again, would giving up mean Wolverine had squandered his best chance at ever achieving balance?
Logan resolves to face Shingen once more, and this time hold nothing back. He begins taking out several low-level members of the organization, giving each of them a message. I'm coming. Shingen sends out his finest shinobi after Logan. All that comes back is a bloodied outfit and a message requesting a meeting for that night. As both men prepare for one final fight, Mariko prays for guidance and strength. Meanwhile, Yukio tries to lend Logan a hand by taking out the Hand that Shingen has hired for protection. It doesn't work, and she is soon brought before Shingen as a hostage. It's then that Logan arrives and announces his presence by taking out more members of the Hand. Hideki steps forward with Mariko in hand, only to be followed by Yukio's dagger. Logan knows he should kill Yukio for her treachery, but chooses to let her go for saving Mariko's life. Shingen breaks out the treasured sword of the Yoshida clan as Wolverine enters the room and pops his claws. Though Logan is now fighting to kill, Shingen is still a formidable opponent. Eventually, Logan blocks a sword attack and grabs Shingen's throat. All that is heard is and Shingen is dead. Mariko enters the room and picks up the sword, giving it to Logan. She explains that she was planning to kill Shingen and then herself via seppuku, as tradition dictates. She explains that the blade has become tainted by Shingen's evil and that it should be wielded by someone who truly is honorable, like Logan. Weeks later, the X-Men receive something from Wolverine, an invitation to come to Japan for his and Mariko's wedding.
This concludes the 4-issue Wolverine miniseries, with the rest of the story basically being wrapped up in issues 172 and 173 of Uncanny X-Men. Now, some collected versions of this series also include those X-Men tie-in issues. Unfortunately, mine is not one of them, but I do feel like we should touch a little bit on what happens in those stories and explain how this story gets a little bit of closure. Though I'm not doing this in any particular order, so you don't need to harp on me on how detailed this is.
The X-Men arrive in Japan for the wedding, with Cyclops arriving separately so that he can introduce the team to his new girlfriend, Madeline Pryor. This leads to an awkward situation as everyone realizes that Madeline looks exactly like the recently deceased Jean Grey.
And if any of you remember my X-Men Inferno review, you know how that story ends.
During the rehearsal dinner, Logan detects that the tea being served to everyone has been poisoned. Unfortunately, the only one he can stop from drinking the tea is Storm. Rogue is the first of the X-Men to recover, and she teams up with Wolverine, Storm, and Yukio to track down the Silver Samurai, Mariko's half-brother, who is making a power play to lead the Ishida clan. Along the way, Storm is so impressed by Yukio's passion and lust for life that she decides to follow in the thief's footsteps. This also leads to an implied romantic tryst between the two. This all results in Storm adopting her mohawk punk rock look that she would have for almost 10 years. Unfortunately, while the Silver Samurai is defeated, this turns out to just be a distraction to allow Mastermind to manipulate Mariko into ending the engagement.
Although she would eventually be freed of Mastermind's control, Mariko basically refused to resume her relationship with Logan until she finally cleared out all of her family's criminal activities. And that's pretty much all true to this day. Not to mention with the whole death and return of Wolverine thing that's happened in recent years, I have no idea where the relationship stands. Anyway, how is the 4-issue Wolverine miniseries by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller? Well, this is hailed as a classic, and for good reason. I mean, I think this is a great action-packed storytelling with some excellent characterization, which, yeah, is a little heavy on the whole inner monologue thing. That's kind of a trope with a lot of Chris Claremont stories, but I think it does a really good job of conveying Wolverine's emotions and personal philosophy throughout the whole story arc. Not to mention, Frank Miller's artwork is spectacular, and really there is nothing comparable to when he was on his game. If I do have any complaints, again, it's the missing X-Men tie-in issues. I really think that does help bring the story some proper closure, and if you do want to get this, especially on Comixology, I would recommend getting those as well. I think it's also available on the Marvel Unlimited app, so it's not going to hurt you too much if you have to buy them. Also, I get that they were trying to do sort of a symbolic parallel thing with the story earlier with the bear, where Wolverine is tracking down the poison bear that should have been killed outright, and then Shingen just poisons Wolverine instead of killing him outright and leaving him to come back. But it really slows the pacing of the story down a little bit. I mean, it's 6 pages of story that really could have been condensed down to 3. But those are real minor quibbles. Again, I'm going to give Wolverine by Chris Claremont and Frank Miller an A. Though again, I would also recommend getting issues 172 and 173 of Uncanny X-Men as well. And with that, let's see what we'll be doing next time on the Random Trade Review.
Hey guys, got a request for the show? Check out my Patreon at patreon.com/sleepytimeforcatproductions. And if you like the video, give it a like, share it, subscribe, and ring that notification bell.